Stop work meetings across Newcastle began early this morning. Carrington members of the Amalgamated Metalworkers Union voted to support the national 24-hour strike next Wednesday in support of a claim that will add $50 a week to their pay packets within 6 months. But they also voted to stay out for 48 hours from this morning. As meetings convened in other areas, metalworkers at Hexham, Waratah and Mayfield endorsed their own 24-hour strike.
Obviously the workers are very incensed at the attitude of the employers, so they've taken this additional stop work action today to let the employers know of their extreme anger at the employers' attitude during these negotiations.
Painters and dockers walked out with metal workers at Four Jacks, leaving the Lindsay Clark lying idle in the floating dock. According to Four Jacks management, this has damaged Newcastle's credibility as a dockyard worldwide. Other industries also said the strike was bad for the city's reputation. Contracts were delayed at a cost that's hard to estimate. And it was a similar story all across town. Normally busy workshops were either totally shut down or working on a skeleton staff of apprentices only.
We've another 5 area meetings tomorrow, and they'll obviously be considering their position as well.
Georgetown members will institute overtime bans next week and more disruption to industry is expected. Rebecca Skinner, NBN News.
The economic gloom and doom that's supposedly gripping the nation was nowhere to be found at the Broadmeadow Exhibition Centre today. The 5th annual Complete Business Expo attracted a record number of exhibitors.
It's bigger and better than other years. We've got more exhibitors this year, which is very pleasing in view of the economic situation which prevails throughout the country at the present time. So we're very happy with the number of exhibitors, and there's a better and a bigger variety of goods and services on display. So there's plenty for everyone to see.
Apart from seeing the state-of-the-art in business and communication technology, patrons will also be able to see into the future, at least on a small scale. Models of the Maitland Theatre Complex and the soon-to-be-built Newcastle Workers Club are on display, complete with plans and artists' impressions.
The models have been received very, very well, and of course it does show a degree of optimism for the business future in Newcastle, and I think it gives Novocastrians a lot of heart and a lot of confidence for the future.
The exhibition will continue for another 2 days.
Seeing the need for Christian-orientated education, the Anglican Church set about building the grammar school in 1987. Today, $1.4 million later, the school is almost a quarter complete. In 10 years' time, it will boast 25 classrooms and 9 specialised buildings. Although corporate sponsors like Shell Australia contribute to funding, the school's existence depends on student fees. According to Principal Reverend Chris Bullock, the federal government does not encourage the establishment of new schools, and it's been a struggle to get this far.
And it's difficult if in fact you've got a reasonably stable population, because of the view that maybe a new school will take away from an existing school. Now, we don't believe that the presence of Scone Grammar here has actually adversely affected Scone High or Muswellbrook High. In fact, we believe that everybody's enriched by the presence of an independent school.
Despite financial constraints, the school is now firmly established in the Scone community. Although nearly at the end of its first year of operation, it was officially opened today by State Governor Rear Admiral Peter Sinclair.
It's particularly pleasing to see this occurring in a country area, as our more remote communities can seldom enjoy the same range of educational opportunities that are available to city folk.
122 students are now enrolled at the school, but that's expected to increase to 164 next year. The first HSC students will pass through in 1994. The field will officially open in 3 weeks.
This side of the red, the Russian for Tenko as they go to the line. The Russian will take it for the Rick. Coming through now. It's a beauty as they come through. The other side is Matsana. Then it is Raymond Leonard. But coming quickly was one of the Italian kilometres today. Another part of this great bike event.
Stay there.
Oh boy, oh boy. Well,
It may perform like an old-style roller skate, but it looks nothing like it. For starters, the wheels are all in line and can vary from 3 wheels for smaller feet to 5 wheels for those who compete with the best. Born in the state of Minnesota in the US of A, the rollerblade's characteristics, to the converted, spell hours of fun.
It starts with the smoothness of the ride. Being the inline skate, you don't have as many cracks and bumps in the road that you feel, along with the wheels being kryptonic and the liner being a lot thicker than the actual boot that's on the traditional roller skate. You get a lot more maneuverability and speed out of them also.
Not only does the rollerblade provide high-speed thrills, but it's fast becoming part of the fitness regime of leading athletes worldwide.
If it takes the same route as it is in America, as the aerobics are heading out, cross-training is coming in. It's a low-impact, high aerobic exercise, and people are using it as a sport. And they're recreational, sporting, social, fun activity. So it's becoming part of life. It's not just going to come in and go out.
To the average bloke in the street, it seems fairly easy. Or is the sport only for the experts?
It's actually easier than roller skating, easier than ice skating, skiing, but if you have done any of those things or can do them, it's very easy to pick up.
It is easy to see Mem Fox's magic. Early years in drama school, a lifetime's experience as a teacher, and a genuine love of children. It's a winning formula that made her first book, Possum Magic, a household name, quickly becoming Australia's best-selling publication. Today she brought alive a selection of her 19 children's books.
Waterloo, I do love you. And she longed for her to say it again.
I read a book this morning to 1,000 children called Koala Loo, and they were very quiet during it. It's only 419 words, but it took me 2 years to write those 419 words to get them right.
And it's a love of reading that will guarantee a child's success in life, says Mem Fox, who tomorrow will speak to hundreds of teachers at a literacy conference at Newcastle University.
I think emotion is tremendously important. You have to laugh, or cry, or shiver, or get scared, or want to vomit, or something has to happen in the book. Something. If you read a book and feel nothing, what's the point of reading?
But her newest book, already a sellout, isn't one for her youngest fans. Her autobiography is very much for their mums and dads. They came from 27 schools throughout the Hunter, from as far away as Taree and Wee Waa, and they came to take an active part in all types of events, where the main aim was not necessarily winning. The aim was to have fun and to gain a sense of personal achievement, and that proved easy for the students aged from 4 to 18. Some of the games posed quite a challenge, but there were plenty of helping hands. And help came over loud and clear from compere Keith Shakespeare, who has been involved with the carnival since it began 25 years ago. This, he says, will be his last. But it won't be the last for the children, who voted it a highlight of their year.
The red carpet will be rolled out for the opening of the complex in Ken Tubman Drive. It cost $6 million to build and should fill a long-ignored niche in the local entertainment scene.
Maitland's been without cinemas for about 13 odd years, and people wishing to go to the movies in that period have had to go to Newcastle, or maybe people that wanted to go wouldn't go because of travel or time taken or lack of parking facilities and all that sort of thing.
A generation of Maitland and Coalfields teenagers has grown up without a local cinema, and they're looking forward to the opening.
I think it's great. Should be there.
And a good place to go out with boys?
Yeah, for sure.
The magic of the movies rekindles memories for a slightly older group of moviegoers.
We should have been here 20 years ago because we've missed 20 years of going to the movies.
We've missed it very, very much, and I'm very happy we have a cinema in Maitland.
That's where I caught it my wife. You know, most of the people in town used to take their wife or their girlfriends to the movies on Friday or Saturday nights.
The romance of the cinema lives on and off the big screen, and even in the heart of the manager, Mike Franklin.
Cinema, yes, movies, yes, I think I've got celluloid in my veins.
The Palace, Savoy, Princess and Astor echo the names of the town's old movie houses. With a 1,200-seat capacity, the new complex boasts a candy bar, cafe, licensed bar and wheelchair access. Brand new projection gear can screen 16, 35 and 70mm latest releases at the latest prices.
You can't buy much for $1 these days, and I think $10 for an evening price for a movie in this sort of environment is good value, very good value.
The first official screening will be the manager's own home movie of the theatre's construction. The premiere will then be treated to an Australian Film Industry Award winner, The Big Steal. Andrew Lobb for NBN News.
Well, hello everyone, welcome to Sport on this Friday night. Pretty mucky conditions outside, but we hope that you are having a good Friday night at home. Well, cycling came to Newcastle today in the form of the 9th stage of the Commonwealth Bank Cycling Classic. Unfortunately, no victory for an Australian this year. The Soviets and the Polish riders dominating this year's Classic. We'll get onto that report a little bit later on, but firstly to basketball. And a very disturbing report today that Newcastle youngster Peter Hill, who was a superstar with the Newcastle Falcons towards the end of this season, won't be playing for the Falcons in 1991. Ken Cole and Peter Hill have fallen out. In a season that was less than brilliant except for the latter stages, Hill developed as a fine guard with solid defence and a sharp shot. He averaged 18 points per game for the year, and in the final encounter against Illawarra hit a career-high 32 in the NBL. But he won't be playing for Newcastle in 91. Why not?
Well, I didn't agree with Ken that he was going along the right track with the team. I thought that possibly we needed a couple of bigger guys to go in the team, and in bringing back 2 guards, I thought that wouldn't assist my chances of bettering my performances and also of making the Australian team.
The Falcons have brought back Jerry Everett and have signed Al Green from the Adelaide 36ers. Should Hill feel threatened for court time?
If he is threatened by these people, I think he's wrong. You know, I think that for the first time we have a chance of being a decent team, and he'd be a major player in that. So we're still hopeful that funny things happen, and hopefully Pete will be able to sit down and still say, my future's here.
But as far as Peter Hill is concerned, he feels he doesn't fit into Cole's plans.
The way the team's been brought in for next year, I just couldn't see myself part of the plans.
At the moment, a stalemate, as Cole won't release Hill before he becomes a free agent on November the 12th, even though Hill no longer works for the Falcons and is not allowed to train with the team. Coach Cole still holds some hope.
Well, Peter Hill was very much in our plans for next season. I said to Peter, which is unusual for me, that I would have anticipated Peter would be a starter. Whether he can hold it is going to depend on Peter and other kids that also want to play. But I was expecting he'd be a starter.
However, the possibilities of reconciliation appear to be zero.
Definitely not. I don't want to play for the Falcons in 1991, but I'd certainly be looking to come back. I don't know when, but I'd certainly like to play for the Falcons again at some stage.
Well, as I mentioned at the start of our program tonight, the Commonwealth Bank Cycling Classic came to Newcastle today. Bruce McKenzie has this report.
Today's stage from Foster to Newcastle was ridden at a frenzied pace, with the media car clocking in excess of 80 kilometres an hour to pass the main bunch. The day's tactics began early when 2 riders broke away from the mainstream, but they were quickly hauled in as the bunch closed rapidly. Overnight leader Vladimir Galushko was in the leading pack, keeping an eye on proceedings while a jocular mood descended on the rest of the riders. 4 riders attacked and opened up a substantial break, but they too were eventually brought back to earth by the hungry pack. Conditions for the most part were ideal, but the occasional piece of roadwork weaved its own brand of magic, and numerous punctures put paid to some bold efforts. Hill climbs are an ingredient of the classic that test the best, and today it was Manfred Otto who blitzed his rivals to win both mountain climbs from Igor Bentinko. Then came the attack by 3 riders that was to prove a winner. Andrei Mikowski, Igor Bentinko and Australia's Grant Rice took off and were never headed. Rice was throwing down the gauntlet, trying to become the first Aussie to win a stage of this year's classic. With the pack 20 seconds behind, the 3 riders engaged in a do-or-die struggle to the finish.
It's the Duracell right at the ring, the polish right on the outside. Mikowski this side of the road, the Russian Bentinko. As they go to the line, the Russian will take it.
Newcastle's Dave Perry may not win this year's classic, but he still has a very important job ahead of him.
Really, we have to support our teams. That's what it's all about. We've got one of my riders, Frank, is up in the top 5 or 6 maybe, so our team has to support him.
But there was no rest for the extremely fit. This afternoon they were back in the saddle for the 29.4 kilometre Newcastle criterium, and with valuable time bonuses on offer, no one was complaining. The lead changed countless times until the final turn, when newly crowned King of the Mountains Manfred Otto made his move. He scooted clear and held on to win, and put a finishing touch on a day of personal glory. The fast finishing Zbigniew Spruk claimed second, and with the 15-second bonus he collected, halved Galushko's lead. Tomorrow they head to the entrance, and it's still anyone's race.
Thanks, Bruce, for that report. And that cycling race really is becoming a world classic, the Commonwealth Bank Cycling Classic, and Phil Bates and all the organisers should be congratulated the way that race has developed over the last few years. Hope you enjoy your weekend. We'll have more of Newsnight in just a moment.
It was a red carpet affair, and one which the people of Maitland will never forget. 1,500 people anxiously waiting the arrival of Premier Greiner and his wife Catherine. Even though the Premier was more than half an hour late, the spirit of the crowd could not be dampened. When the horse-drawn carriage finally pulled up, the Premier received a welcome he will long remember. Maitland has been without a picture theatre for the past 20 years, so tonight was an historic occasion for the city. Once the official ceremony was over, Premier Greiner and his wife settled down to watch the latest Australian release, The Big Steal.
You'd normally be handing over a library card for these books, but today it was hard cash. In a first for Newcastle, the library is selling off its old books instead of pulping them or giving them to charity. 45,000 books varying from 20 cents to $2 are on offer. Council hopes to make more than $10,000, half of which will go towards the Newcastle Youth Council. The sale continues at the Civic Theatre tomorrow. While motorists are feeling the pinch with petrol price hikes, truckies say it's killing their livelihoods.
I do believe that the industry will go into bankruptcy in the very near future if there is not some support from government.
Drivers say fuel prices have almost doubled in the past 16 months. A return trip from Newcastle to Townsville cost $1,200 in June last year. Today it's more than $2,000. A Transport Workers Union delegation told the meeting that talks with Land Transport Minister Bob Brown earlier this month, calling for the government to cut fuel prices, met an unsympathetic response. Although some drivers urged strike action, a broader resolution was passed for a national campaign against the government. It's the second meeting in 6 weeks. In that period, diesel has risen from 68 to 82 cents a litre. For the Newcastle crew, the water skiing outing became a disaster. Just 1 minute after leaving the boat ramp, smoke began rising from the inboard V8 of the 4-metre boat.
And we pulled the engine cover back. I turned the engine off, pulled the engine cover back, and just flames just poured out everywhere.
So what did you do then?
Just jumped.
While the four swam to safety, a passerby called the fire brigade. They swamped the fiberglass vessel in foam to control the blaze. The $10,000 craft was a complete write-off, leaving the owners who had just reconditioned the engine in shock.
It's pretty scary there for a while.
Also in the drink, this Datsun 180B. Police allege the driver, a 20-year-old Wallsend man, had a blood alcohol count 4 times the legal limit. At 9 a.m, when his car sped off Maitland Road, rolled and landed in Throsby Creek. The driver, who was unhurt, will appear in Newcastle local court on the 20th of November. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
A howling headwind turned the surface of the Hunter River into a choppy mess this morning, making things doubly difficult for the rowers. The 16 kilometres from Raymond Terrace to Morpeth began to seem more like 160, but no one was admitting defeat. A staggered start caused some confusion and left the competitors racing against nothing but the clock. First to appear was the Sydney 8, who recorded the day's fastest time of 1 hour, 3 minutes and 6 seconds. It was a mighty effort in the conditions, and it was more than 7 minutes before their closest rivals appeared. In third was the Hunter 8, who admitted they found the going tough.
It was terribly windy, and but other than that, as we came around on some of the corners, the conditions were a little bit more protected. But I think if the breeze had dropped a lot more, it would have been far more enjoyable. Other than that, it was a damn long row.
Still, they had plenty of reasons to smile, as sheer weight of numbers gave them the edge in the overall point score and left the club $500 richer.
The award acknowledges those people in the community who work tirelessly with children but often receive little thanks. Without them, organisations like Cubs and Little Athletics might not be a reality. John Deacon has been a teacher for 23 years. However, his work with children goes far beyond that. His love of art has helped boost the confidence of many children. Like John, Joy Bradford's association with children goes further than her work as a preschool director at Hamilton. Alan Cornish is the third recipient of the award. In the past 3 years, he has been a major mover with the Little Athletics Association. According to Dr. John Schiller of the Children's Television Advisory Panel, these 3 people have helped shape the Hunters' youth.
Building up of children's self-esteem, it's the work with children after hours, long hours, doing all the extra things with children, and we wanted to recognise that fact.